This was so cute and so wholesome, and I tabbed the thing and Hello my loves, and thank you for joining me. It's Kirsten and we are doing July's wrap up, and overall this month has been a success. I am so happy with it, so let's just get into it. These are more chatty rambles about the books that I've read, the things I've liked, the things I didn't like, and honestly overall this month has been supreme. I have 2 DNFs to talk about, but they're soft DNFs, and then I have one book that I didn't like for the month, and then the rest of it's all been really good, so let's get into it. Before I do though, let me know what was your favourite read of the month of July or your least favourite. 2 DNFs. So these are soft DNFs. If you saw the vlog for the last week of July, you would know I had 3 books left on my July TBR, and they were all more gothic / horror books, and I was just not in the mood for it. I did attempt it with these 2 books, and then I just said to myself, you know what, I'm not enjoying this. These are going to end up coming out as less enjoyable reads because I'm forcing myself through them, so we're going to do the smart thing and put them down. But I am interested in them and I do want to come back to them, so it's a soft DNF. So we have The Collector by John Knowles. This one I got 30 pages in, and in that first 30 pages we're meeting our main character, who is a little bit obsessed with a woman called Miranda, and he decides that he is going to kidnap her. And in this first 30 pages you're being introduced to him, you're seeing how he's very meticulous, he likes to collect butterflies. He then comes into this sum of money which enables him to buy this house that's kind of out of the way, that has a basement that he starts kitting out, and he keeps saying to himself, oh, I'm never going to use it, I'm never actually going to do anything with it, until the day he actually kidnaps Miranda and puts her in there, and then it goes from there. But I don't know the end goes from there bit because I didn't read that bit. But the first 30 pages is him getting his place and kidnapping Miranda. I do really want to read this one, I just wasn't in the mood for something like this. It's going to be quite dark and disturbing because you're in the mind of the person that kidnapped this girl, so it is going to be a bit more of a disturbing read. I do think it's going to be one that I do end up enjoying. I think it's going to be one that ends up staying with me. It's just for the mood I was in, this was not it, so I will be coming back to this one, which is a shame because this was probably going to be like one of the first classics I've read this year. Maybe not the first, but definitely one of the few classics that I've read this year, but it didn't quite happen. I just wasn't in the mood for it, unfortunately, but we will come back to it. So that is a soft DNF. And the same with The Beholders by Hester Musson. This one I got further into. I got up to page 91. Just was a bit too slow for me. So in this one we're following a main character who is a maid to this household that has been specifically chosen by the mistress, which is very uncommon, and she is reflecting back on her past because she's writing a journal, which is what we get, detailing her past, the fact that she's running away from a marriage that she should want but just doesn't want, and she doesn't really know why. And so when she got this position as maid, she jumped at the opportunity. She has since progressed to lady's maid and gets to interact a lot more with her mistress, which is what she wants, and she knows things aren't quite right but can't really put a finger on it. It is good, it's just very slow, and I wasn't in the mood for a slow creeping gothic, especially when it's not very heavy on the gothic at the minute. I do imagine it will pick up, but currently it's a bit too slow for me. Again, this is one I will come back to. It's a historical fiction gothic novel, so I will come back to it. Again, I wasn't in the mood for it. The last week of a month, I generally either finish out my TBR for the month or I allow myself to mood read before going into the next month's TBR. And the way it worked is we needed a mood read week. Normally at this point I would go into the ebooks, but I actually want to talk about the book that I didn't really enjoy for the month. We can get that out the way. And that is Nothing But Blackened Teeth by Cassandra Core. I was kind of disappointed with this one because I really enjoyed The Salt Grows Heavy. I thought that was a really good book by the same author, a little horror novella yet again. That one is a more Little Mermaid horror inspired retelling. It was good. I really enjoyed that book. This one just didn't really work for me. We're following a group of people who are going to this Japanese mansion to host a wedding. They're all a bit obsessed with horror stories and ghost stories, but you're just seeing a lot of like the dynamics between them, a lot of arguing that's going on, and then kind of the horror stuff all got thrown in at the very end, and it just didn't really seem to fit. For me, yeah, I was was just a bit like, oh, I'm kind of bored. This is a very short book. I'm surprised it's taken this long. Then we got all the horror elements and I was a bit like, oh, was that it? It just didn't really work. So I think this one's eventually going to become an unhaul. It's unfortunate. It just didn't quite work out for me. Okay, so now we'll move on to the fact that everything else this month has been fantastic. I've really enjoyed it. And let's go through the 2 ebooks. We have the Discord book club pick for July, which is Paladins Grace by T. Kingfisher. This was a great book. Like, it surprised me with how much I enjoyed this. And I know I've said this a lot, I apologise, but it genuinely did. So I have read a lot of T. Kingfisher's traditionally published works, which tend to be more horror leaning or fairy tale retelling, and I love those. I eat them up. This one is more fantasy romance based, and I wasn't sure if I was going to get on with it because of that. I shouldn't have been surprised at the fact that I did really enjoy this. It has T. Kingfisher's signature humour in it, which I adore, and the fact that we had this cutesy romance going along, but we also have enough going on plot wise. Like, there are some beheadings that are going on, different things like this, which was honestly kind of ridiculous. It was a bit like we put all the ingredients in a pot, stirred it up, and then went, there we go. And it was, yeah, a bit messy at times, but it was so fun and entertaining. I loved our characters. I'm definitely going to be continuing on with this series. So we have Stephen, who is a paladin whose god has passed away, and so he is now kind of taken in by the white rat god, and all of the disciples of the white rat are more focused on helping those in need. They will represent people in court. They will give out medicine to people, you know. They take on the disgraced paladins as bodyguards, and it also allows them a chance to heal as well. Stephen in particular likes to knit socks, which is just a cute little quirk that I found really adorable. And then we have our second character, Grace, who is a perfumer, who I stand by the fact was modelled off of Perfume by Patrick Susskind, because some of the things that are said, it just reminded me of it a lot. Which it may not be, but for me that's the connection I made, and therefore will always have. And yes, there are a few things that aren't amazing with this book, like the description. The smell of gingerbread is used a heck of a lot throughout this book, but I had so much fun with it. I thought the characters were lovely. I love seeing them grow. There is a lot of back and forth between them of feeling like they don't deserve one another, that they're not good enough for one another, and they've both got reasons for feeling this way. So there is a lot of back and forth over that. It's nice. You get to see the growth. You get to see them overcoming these things, and I just loved it. And then of course at the same time you have the mystery around the decapitations, which was wild. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to continuing on with this series, and thankful to Discord that it was available for the book club for the month, because otherwise I probably never would have picked up this book and would have been missing out on a very fun story. We then have Flower Heart by Catherine Bakewell, and this was such a cutesy, heartwarming time. So we're following a young main character. She's only 16, Clara, and she has very wild, unruly magic, and she has been told by the council in charge of people with magic, I guess, is going to have this magic taken away in some form because it's just too unruly for her to control. And she gets very distressed, very distraught about all of this, and her father gets caught in the crossfire and ends up with these poisonous flowers growing out of his heart. And so the council's like, okay, you get 1 week to try and master your powers enough to bless him and save him. She calls on the help of an old friend of hers. They work in together to try and get her to overcome her powers, be able to save her father. At the same time, there is this other potion that's going around that is curing people with melancholy, except it doesn't really, because it goes to the extreme other side and people get caught up in these delusions where they cannot see or hear reality anymore, and they're trying to find out who is behind this, who is distributing it, what's actually going on. And I really liked this book because we get to see Clara coming into herself, but you also do get that depiction of depression and how it is so difficult to deal with, and how needing help is important, and just thinking, oh, people will get over this is wrong. Also seeing how Clara just ignores that little voice in her head that's constantly telling her she is not enough. In this case, it is her magic. And I just really liked those depictions. It is a young adult book. I think it's very cute and cozy. There was just something very heartwarming about everything. Is it a bit unbelievable at times that we have 16-year-olds that are in charge of healing people? Yes. Again, it's a fantasy book. I'm not going into it for reality. And I thought it was a really fun, cute time. And that's literally all this book was just a cute time. This was exactly what I was in the mood for. I read it for my Cottagecore vlog and it fit the bill perfectly. And that was it for ebooks. Normally I read more ebooks, and technically I have, but the rest of them are physical books that I own that I read as an ebook. Just like with Promise Boys by Nick Brooks. This is one that I owned, but Libby had it available as an ebook, so I ended up reading it as an ebook during Summerween. It didn't end up working for any of the prompts of Summerween, but you know, it was a fun time anyway. This is a young adult murder mystery. Not my favourite type. This is more for the fans of Karen M. McManus, and this one also does focus more on talking about society and how in America being black and young and growing up from a poorer community means that you are always seen as guilty and you're constantly having to fight out against things like this. So it does call a lot of that into question, and you know, it was really good at that. I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the cultural look and how people's assumptions and stuff have such an impact on other people. The actual murder mystery side of things was interesting. It was okay, but like I say, it was more like a Karen M. McManus book, which I'm not as keen on. So if you do like things like One of Us is Lying, you're probably gonna like this one. I enjoyed it. I thought the formatting was really interesting. The way it's done, you get in each part you're seeing a different person that's been accused, but before you get their perspective, you get other people's assumptions of them, and then you get what they did the day before the crime and then the day of the murder. And then in the very last part, you see these boys coming together to try and solve who actually did this and clear their name. I thought it was really good. I enjoyed the way it was set up. I thought that was really interesting. I enjoyed the social commentary. Like I said, it's just not my favourite murder mystery. Also, I picked that book up because it was on a dark academia table. Not dark academia in the slightest. It's definitely more just murder mystery. And then the other book I was reading, half and half, like some of this was from the physical book, some of it was from an ebook, and that is Clytemnestra by Constanza Cassidy, and I was reading this for the Instagram book club that I am a part of. This was good. I enjoyed it. I still have my bookmark in here. I finished it. This one is a Greek myth retelling all about Clytemnestra. It's from Clytemnestra's perspective. This is more of the classic historical fiction leaning Greek mythology retellings that we have, and we are following Clytemnestra from a very young age to when she is older, and we even see her first marriage, which is not something that gets spoken about very much, so I appreciated that. That's something I really liked about this book, was it focused in on some of those smaller, lesser known mythology tales that don't get focused on so much because the Battle of Troy is such a big one, and as a result Agamemnon, her second husband, is the main person that we hear about, but we don't hear about how he became Clytemnestra's husband, the fact that she did have a husband before him. I really enjoyed it for that. I enjoyed seeing all of those little tales play out. The one thing I will say in this is that when it comes to the big event that happens with Agamemnon that sparks everything with Clytemnestra, I mean, she was already harbouring hatred, but the thing that sparks it to go, okay, this is it, this is the last nail in the coffin for me, didn't really focus on the grief, and instead we got letters to Clytemnestra from her family detailing how she wasn't eating and how this isn't like her and all of this stuff, which is the only time we ever got letters in this book, and it just didn't really seem to fit, considering that we spent such a long time with Clytemnestra as she was growing up and we were getting used to her feelings, getting used to her as a person. I don't think it would have been detrimental to Clytemnestra's character if we had spent time with her in her grief. We get it afterwards and seeing how she is still affected by grief, but we don't actually get it in that moment, and I feel like it's a bit of a disservice, because even if it was just a chapter or two, seeing that and showing that, it would have been really good, I feel like, because you would have got such a more well-rounded character. It feels like towards the end of the book we were losing some of what makes Clytemnestra Clytemnestra. That's all in my opinion, obviously, but I just feel like we could have had a chapter or two where we actually sat with her in this moment of despair when she has just lost her daughter, and seeing that rather than hearing about it from others in letters, which didn't fit the rest of the book. Otherwise, I thought it was a very good book. I was really intrigued by it. I liked looking at Clytemnestra in depth like this. I thought it was really well done. Would really recommend, if you do like Greek myth retellings such as like Jennifer Saint books, things like that, you're going to enjoy this one because it was very well done. It was just that little bit where I'm like, ugh, I wish we had spent a bit longer there. But this was great. Really enjoyed dipping back into Greek mythology with this. Okay, then we have the book that I ended up mood reading for the month. So we've got 9 Liars by Maureen Johnson. So originally I had this out on Libby, and by the time I got round to it, I realised I only had 4 days to read this book in, and I was like, that's not going to be enough. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to go out and buy a copy. So I did. The week that I decided I'm ditching my July TBR, I went out and bought a copy of this book and read this whole thing, and I loved it. It was great. This is the 5th book in the what starts off as the Truly Devious series, where we're following Stevie, and Stevie wants nothing more than to become Sherlock Holmes. She loves deducting things, she loves solving mysteries. In the first 3 books, we are following Ellenham Academy. Stevie attends Ellenham Academy and she gets in because she says to them, I am going to solve the cold case around this school. And in each book, she solves a smaller mystery, and across the trilogy, she solves the whole case. Then we get 2 different, kind of more standalone type ones. The first one, Box in the Woods, is in summer break. So they've just finished their first year of Ellenham Academy and they're on summer break. And this one is at the start of the 2nd year of Ellenham Academy. They all go off to London on a study trip, and of course Stevie gets pulled into yet another mystery. Now I will say the majority of this book was focusing on Stevie not knowing what she wants to do. She's got all of her friends who are applying to colleges and things, and she has no idea. She knows that she enjoys solving mysteries, but that doesn't exactly get you into a college, so what the hell does she do? As a result, you see a lot of that. You see a lot of what it's like to be young, to having to make these big decisions about courses and subjects that you're choosing, just not knowing what to do with your life. So this one it's a young adult murder mystery, but we've also got more of a coming of age story going on in this one. But I really liked it. I'm looking forward to seeing where Stevie goes next, what the next step for her is, the next mystery. I am looking forward to it all. I just had so much fun with this. This was exactly what I needed. Good old cozy murder mystery was what I was in the mood for, and this delivered. Is it the most perfect thing ever? No. But did I enjoy it? Yes. However, I do still think we spent far too long on learning about Henry VIII. Again, I still really enjoyed it, so I'm being nitpicky when I actually enjoyed this book a lot. Continuing on with murder mysteries, we have Midsummer Marauders by Agatha Christie. I did mention this in my last monthly wrap up, where I had been reading this on and off throughout the month because it's a short story collection, and I finally finished it in July. And doing it across 2 months like this has made me realise I want a short story collection to read every single month, because it was so much fun just to be able to relax. The moments where I'm in between books, or moments where I've got half hour but I don't feel like reading the book I'm currently reading, I can just pick up a little short story. Of course, I enjoyed this. I really like Agatha Christie's murder mysteries. Like, she's the queen of murder mystery for a reason. I had a lot of fun with this. They were just really good, fun times. We got to see Tommy and Tuppence again, Hercule Poirot, Miss Marple, you know, all the classics. It was really fun. They were all just short, bite-sized little mini mysteries, and it was great. So yeah, definitely going forward, I want to make sure I'm keeping a short story collection on the go because it was really fun. They're not going to be books that you hear me talking about in every single weekly vlog because that would get very tiring and repetitive. But if I am reading a significant amount in one week, I will talk about it. Otherwise, it's just going to probably be mentioned in like potentially reset videos or wrap-ups, things like that. But it was really good. I really enjoyed doing that, especially just reading a short story before bed or first thing off the morning. Taking that half hour before I start my day to sit down and read a short story was just brilliant. I really enjoyed that. Okay, last few books. We have Garden Spells by Sarah Addison Allen, and I think this ended up being my favourite book of the month. I'm not gonna lie. This was so cute and so wholesome, and I tabbed the thing and I loved it. It was perfect. So again, this one was for my Cottagecore vlog, and it was in that vlog that I realised this is me as a reader. I do enjoy darker books, but I love the cozies. That is where my love is. That is what I want to be reading the majority of the time, and I did. I loved this one so much. And this one is just a cute slice of life book, really. We're following quite a few different characters within this little town, but the main ones that we get are 2 sisters. We have Sydney and Claire. The first one we meet is Claire, who lives at the family house, and the Waverleys have always been known for being a little bit different, having a little bit of magic around them, and the fact that they've got this apple tree in their backyard that likes to throw its apples at people, because the apples themselves will show you your biggest moment in life. Whether it's a good moment or a bad moment, it's gonna show you. And the Waverleys are very strict in like, no, people shouldn't know this, because if it's a happy moment, once that's happened, you know nothing's going to live up to it, and if it's a bad moment, you're always going to live in fear of that moment. It's not something they want to subject people to. But Claire herself is very reclusive. She loves living in her house. She loves taking on what her grandmother used to do, and her sister Sydney, well, they've never got on that closely. However, Sydney comes rolling up one day with a daughter in tow. They suddenly get thrown together and having to kind of work through everything together. Sydney is running away from a very abusive partner. So yes, there are darker moments in this, but there was just something about the way it was written that was just so cozy and wonderful. I really adored this book. I loved seeing the slight little magical quirks about the Waverleys. I loved seeing the different community and the way they interact with them, and I loved seeing this family come together, and it was just so beautiful. I loved this book so much. I'm definitely going to get the rest of Sarah Addison Allen's books because I adored it. I am so pleased I did that video and that I read this book. Honestly, I've got nothing but praise to sing. The tabs themselves though, we only had 3. So the first one, the pink one, is for quotes that I love and connect to. Yellow for romance blossoming. And then we have green for nature and also the apple tree depictions. It was really cute and wholesome and beautiful, and if you haven't read it, I would suggest giving it a try if you need something that is just light and beautiful and just cute and cozy and just everything. Like, it was so good. And I know I'm a bit late to that one. Look, quite a few of you have already read that and you've loved it and you're like, please go on and read the next book. I 100% will be, because that was beautiful and I adored my time with it so much in such a surprising way. Like, I didn't think I was gonna love it the amount I did, and it was just so wholesome. It was beautiful. Ended up being my favourite book of the month. Okay, then we have a book for Summerween, Killers of a Certain Age by Denna Raybourn. This is Denna Raybourn's standalone cozy thriller. We're following a group of retired assassins. These are elderly women and they are going off on a cruise that their company that they work for is hosting for them as a, you know, you're retiring, well done. Except they find out that actually on this cruise they're being targeted. The company they're working for is, well, were working for, is now setting out to assassinate them. So these women are going to show them how it's done. It was really silly, ridiculous time, but it was very entertaining, and that's the thing, like, it was so entertaining to read. Is it as good as the Veronica Speedwell series by the same author? No. I will say Veronica Speedwell series is better in terms of characters, in terms of plot lines and stuff. This was just so ridiculous. I'm not gonna lie, like, it was utterly ridiculous. Was it a very fun time though? Yes. And I did read this very quickly because I was ill. I just couldn't really focus on much apart from sleeping and then picking up this book to read. That is literally all I did for a day. So I got through this very, very quickly, but it was exactly what I needed because you didn't have to concentrate on this too much. And it was such a ridiculous time. And I know I keep using that word, but that is the word I associate with this book because it was just mad. Absolutely mad. Some of the things that they're doing, and I'm just like, that is so unbelievable and yet so funny. It was a good time. Is it something I'm going to recommend if you want to read Denna Raybourn for the first time? No, I'm going to recommend the Veronica Speedwell series. If you're after something that is just that little bit humorous, doesn't take itself seriously, it's just a fun, entertaining, cozy thriller crime time, yeah, go for it. But maybe get it out your library just in case, because I know this book isn't going to be for everyone because of the way that it does lack in certain areas. But for me, I go into cozy books for the enjoyment factor, and that's what it delivered on, so I'm very happy. Okay, and then again for Summerween, I read Fruit of the Dead by Rachel Lyon. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, okay? I went into this book, I picked this one up because it is a Hades, Persephone and Demeter retelling, but from Persephone and Demeter's perspective, Hades does not get a point of view in this, which I liked. I liked that. It also sticks very true to the actual mythology where it was Persephone being kidnapped, being taken against her will. In this one, she's not exactly taken against her will, but there is a lot where she feels very aimless, doesn't really know what she wants to do with her life, and the Hades, or in this case Rollo, takes advantage of that. This is a contemporary retelling. We are following Corey, who is a camp counselor, and one of the children that gets really attached to her is the child of this person called Rollo, who is this pharmaceutical tycoon. Then kind of gets enamored by Corey and is like, come to my island with me. Come to my island. You need to sign this NDA, but come to my island with me. Look after my children some more. It will be fine. And then he starts plying her with these different drugs. She's like, yeah, sure, I'll take them, whatever. I'm just like aimless and don't know what I'm doing with my life. And I don't know you. You're a complete stranger, but I'm going to go with you anyway. Her relationship with her mum is really troubled. And she gets herself caught up in things, gets stuck into it a lot deeper than what she ever wanted to, but doesn't really know how to get out of it. And then from the other perspective, you're seeing her mum, who is trying to get her back, trying to find out where she is, what's going on, and the lengths that she will go to get her daughter back. I thought the retelling aspects were done really well. There was lots of little like things that were put in that made you go, oh yeah, I love how you did that. Like getting to the island, you had to pay the ferryman. Those little things really worked for adding the mythology into this contemporary setting. The thing that I kind of wanted from it though is a little bit more darker atmosphere, and that is just me putting it on to the book rather than the book saying it's going to deliver on that. Like it says from the start, it is a contemporary retelling and nothing about any atmosphere or darkness or things like that. I did want it a little bit darker, so in a way it was a bit of a letdown, but that was only because of my preconceptions, not because of any fault of the book's part. If you're after a more contemporary, because I know we've had a lot of Greek mythology retellings that are set in that historical setting and they are beautifully written, but I know it can get quite boring and you want to change it up a bit, maybe give this one a try. Obviously you do have your trigger warnings and it does have a list in the front, I believe. Okay, no, I'm thinking of a different book. There are content warnings in here, but I just think it's so interestingly done, and even the chapter titles is actually from a poem that's to do with Demeter and Persephone, which I really love that. I love that it was added in here. I think it really adds that little touch to the book. So yeah, so if you are after a more contemporary look at Greek mythology, give this one a try. I thought it was really well done. It also really explores the relationship between mother and daughters, how difficult that can be, and yet that bond of love still being there. I thought it was a fantastic book. Then we have the last two books for the month, which are actually the first two books I read for July. So one of them being I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hopman. This is translated from French by Ross Schwartz. This was so good, and honestly if it wasn't for Garden Spells, this would probably be my favourite book of the month. It is so well done. It is a dystopian sci-fi weird book and it just really works. So in this one we follow a main character whose name we never actually know, and she is kept in this room. They believe it's underground but they don't actually know for sure because they have no windows, they can't tell, and she's kept in this room with a bunch of other women who are watched by guards. They are watched day and night, and they are very strict on what they will allow the women to do in terms of they're not allowed to touch one another, they're not allowed to show too much emotion. So it's very, very strict in what they can do. They get no privacy either, and it's kind of like what happens to humanity when you strip away everything that makes us individuals. Eventually though, something happens where they're able to escape and they find themselves in this place and they're like, I don't even know if this is Earth anymore. We have no idea. And you're seeing them go place to place trying to find other people to interact with, to find out what's gone on. But the book is going to be annoying for some people because you never get those answers. You never find out anything that actually happened. And this book is kind of like stream of consciousness almost. There are no chapter breaks or anything. This is just what our main character has written down. It's just like in hope if somebody ever comes across it. It is such a good book. I love what it calls into question. I think this is a book that no matter how many times you read it, you're going to get something different from it depending on where you are in your life. It's definitely a book I want to reread and annotate. For the first read through, I didn't annotate it because there was so much that I could have pulled from this that I decided, you know what, let me read it through once on its own, and then when I reread this book, because I can annotate it then. And it was so good. I'm so pleased I picked this one up. It's one of those books that I've been meaning to read for a while, just never got around to, and then I finally did it. And then last but not least, we have Chlorine by Jade Song. This was another contender for favourite book of the month. This was really good. This is a horror book that looks at mermaids, puberty, growing up. We're following Ren, and Ren is becoming a professional swimmer, and so you're seeing the toxicity of that, the difficulties it is to become an athlete, the weird relationship that you have with your coach, and how this oversteps a lot of boundaries in that respect. There is illicit trigger warnings at the front of this book, and I did annotate, and I just thought it was brilliant. There was definitely moments of this book where I was viscerally reacting because I was like, oh god, no, please don't do it, don't do it. It was really good, really well done. It goes in depth about things like periods and the fact that we're really not taught much about periods, about what to look out for, or things that could be different about it, and all of this stuff. Like, it's done in a classroom and it's made to seem like it's so clean and sterile and such an easy thing to deal with, and the reality is it's not. It's kind of horrifying. It was really, really good for that. I enjoyed it. There is definitely a lot of slower parts in here. So you have at the start of this Ren being obsessed with mermaids. You get a lot of the folklore of mermaids, going into the swimming pool for the first time, and all of that. Really good. As she's growing up and growing through puberty, you realise she kind of gets lost. She loses that interest, which is normal actually. Most people do. When you're growing up, you lose those childhood interests and things. And so she does. She gets distracted by different things. And then at the end, she's coming back to it. She's coming back to that mermaid folklore belief, the belief that she is in the wrong body, the belief that she is meant to be a mermaid, and everything disturbing that goes alongside that. I thought it was brilliant. So we do have some tabs in here. This was also a gift by Uniquely DJ, so thank you. I forgot to mention Killers of a Certain Age is also a gift by Uniquely DJ, and Midsummer Mysteries was a gift from Jane, so thank you so much. Sorry, I didn't mean to forget. I did even have it noted that I was to remember to say thank you for all the gifts. I apologize for that, but yeah, they were fantastic books, so thank you so much to Uniquely DJ and Jane for gifting me those books. It's been amazing. This one, in terms of the annotations that I've done, so I went obviously mainly blues, try and fit the cover. So we have quotes that I love, as always. We then have mermaid folklore. We've got commentary on society and things that are unsettling / horrific, and we do also have a further one, darker blue, and that is for things of just casual racism, because Ren is Chinese American and the difficulties that comes alongside that. So this book packed an awful lot into this, and I do think it's a really good book. Honestly, we need more mermaid horror in our lives. So there we are. Those are all the books I read in the month of July. It was honestly a really good month. I enjoyed trying some horror, some weird books. I enjoyed all of that, but honestly mixing it with the cozy books has just made this month perfect. And that is what I spent the month realizing, that yes, I love those gothic leaning books, and the gothic leaning books will stay with me and probably end up being favorites of all time. I don't want to read that stuff all the time. I want to mix it up with cozy books that I just enjoy reading. So yeah, it's been great. It's been a month of discovering my reading taste. It's been a month of having just some fantastic reads. Really recommend all of these. They were so good. Well, except maybe Nothing But Black and Teeth. But you know, it's been a great reading month. Thank you so much for watching this video. And like I say, let me know, have you read any of these? Would you read any of them? And what was your favourite or least favourite read of the month? Let me know in the comments below. I love chatting with you all. It's been absolutely amazing getting to know you all. So thank you so much for that. And thank you for watching these videos and taking the time to watch these videos. Like, truly, it means so much. But if you have made it this far, then let's leave a little apple in the comments below if you've made it this far, or you just want to let me know that you were here. But I'm going to leave it there, so thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, then please do consider giving it that thumbs up, subscribe and comment. Those 3 things really help this channel out. My social media links, anyone I've mentioned, will all be linked below for you, and I will of course catch you in the very next video.